All right. Hi, Tiago. Hi, Killian. So I think we've got both our presenters, both our MVPs here today. All right, and we'll give people a few more minutes to join in. In the meantime, let me give a quick introduction on both our MVPs. I think first of all, I want to just confirm that I am audible and all right, great. Okay. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Tiago back to the Mumbai user group, as well as welcome for the first time Killian to the Mumbai user group for Outsystems. Both of them have been great mentors, and we've been having a lot of fun interacting on use of AI in Outsystems, as well as how to leverage database systems for the agents via versus zombie challenge. I think Killian had a wonderful approach there where he used an algorithmic approach in addition to the agentic approach to solve the problem in a much more efficient manner. So I think today's session is primarily to look at what agentic AI architecture would look like. I think that's something that Tiago is going to give us some insights on, and also then have a discussion on which are the scenarios where agents are better suited and which are the scenarios where your algorithmic or logical approach of automation is better suited. So, without taking more time, Killian and Tiago, the floor is yours. Thank you and welcome again.
Thanks, guys. Killian, yeah, as we align, the floor is yours. I think you can start.
Yeah, I know. Thank you, Tiago. I was just trying to set up all the screens here that they are in a proper order. So let me also figure out how to set up the screen share and stuff. I have seen it before. It's the first time I'm using this platform. There's the button. Then I want to do the entire screen for my second screen. Don't think I'm gonna need audio. So you're probably looking at yourselves now. Let me move this one up. All right, so maybe someone can confirm that you see a very not interesting looking default black and white screen from PowerPoint.
Yeah, I can see the two agent or not two agent slideshow. Yes.
All right, I think I have everything set up now as well. Let me minimize this. Yeah. What's this? This should be done. Alrighty. Welcome everyone, and thank you, Shubi, for the invitation to be able to present to the to this user group this morning. Well, at least for me this morning. I think for some of you it will be this afternoon. Let me quickly walk you through what I want to share with you today. So first, some introductions. I'll talk a little bit by myself, try to minimize it as much as possible because I don't really like talking about myself. I did prepare a little like Mentimeter to also get some information of the audience. So let's see if that's going to work today. Then after we've got to know each other a little bit, I'm gonna first explain the Agents versus Zombies Halloween challenge, so everyone is on the same page and know what was the goal, how it works, etc. Then I'll be sharing about my approach, so what I've done, what was the reasoning, how did it work out or not. I'm going to show you my results, and then also at the end we'll recap with some of the lessons I've learned. Most of them would be applicable towards the AI side, but some are also a bit more generic for the platform. I think there was some sort of Q&A feature, so if you have questions, feel free to drop them there. I think the group is small enough that if there's any very burning questions, I think Shubu, you are going to moderate. I'm okay with people kind of interrupting if they have a question about something, but we have to also keep track of time there a little bit. But if you can moderate that, that would be great. Yeah, that's it. Let's go. So a little bit about me. There you see a picture, I think it's about half a year old, of me and my family. So I live in Rotterdam in the Netherlands with my wife and 2 sons. One is about to turn 1 year old, and the other one is 8 and a bit. Throughout my career, I think it's been the past 14 years, been always working with low-code platforms. I'm going to quickly mention that I started my career with Mendix. I've done this for 4 years at Capgemini. And then after that, at Conclusion was my second company I worked for. We used both Mendix and Outsystems. And then at Team Resilience, the last company I worked for until the beginning of this year, I exclusively used Outsystems. Studied computer science in Delft. Had a bachelor's degree from there and got a master's in enterprise IT architecture from the Antwerp Management School. I've been an Outsystems MVP for a few years now and joined the community in 2015, so over 10 years ago. Let's see. Oh, yeah, more about me. So I think this is very good to set straight at the beginning of this presentation. When this whole AI thing started to happen, I was struggling a little bit. So I was trained as a software engineer. Like the world is deterministic, it's black and white. I can like come up with a solution for a problem. I can trace all the steps. I completely understand what's going on. And now there's this concept of AI where I give it a natural language input and it does some, well, magic at least. For me, it's magic because I cannot fully reason or predict how it works. And so I was struggling a little bit with, hey, am I going to apply this in my life, in my work? I don't know. It's a bit weird because I was always used to be able to understand things and predict that. Until at some point, I got this epiphany a little bit, and I was thinking about like a customer service agent or a service desk agent or whatever. Basically, a human doing certain tasks. And that human is also unpredictable. It's not perfect. It will make mistakes. So then it clicked with me. I started to understand that, hey, this AI agent that I cannot predict, that I cannot fully understand, it doesn't necessarily need to be a problem if it makes mistakes once in a while. I think it's important that it's only making those mistakes in like solving problems where it's allowed to make mistakes. I wouldn't necessarily have an AI now operate on me, for example. But answering support questions, for example, why would it be so bad if out of, I don't know, say 100 questions, the AI agent messes up twice and then it can be escalated to a human? So then that helped me to like better position this whole notion of AI development. And I think it really opens up a whole new like area of problems that we can solve as software engineers. Then the last disclaimer, I'm absolutely not an AI expert. I'm not claiming to be, so I will be primarily just sharing my experiences, my learnings, what I've learned along the way, but I'm not pretending to be the know-it-all about AI. I think there's, well, maybe none, even a few people on the world that potentially could, since it's such a new, a new area, basically. Yeah. So that's, I think, more than enough about me. Let's see if we can get this to work. So if you can, feel free to join this this Menti presentation, and I'll see if I can also put it up on the screen, because I would also love to get a little bit more insights on the audience today. I think I can move this one here. Okay, it looks like at least 2 people have been able to join. And then I can have a quick look at how many we have in the call at all. Can I? Let's see. So 3 people. There's 8 in total. Okay. I'll wait for. We have half of the people here. Oh, that's actually including me, and I'm not joining. So with 5, I think the code will stay on the screen. So let's just continue. 6, almost there. Okay, so first, this is a very open question. I would like to know also for Tiago, why you joined this user group today. So I think, let me see if I need to enable this. Oh, no, I think you should be able to enter free text here. So write down a few words what you hope to maybe learn or. Okay, when not to use AI. Contribute to the learnings for Outsystems. Cool. Learning, contributing, more learning. Okay, lots about learning. So hopefully we'll be able to at least learn you a few new things. Okay, cool, good. Thank you for the inputs. Then to get a sense of how experienced everyone is. So I was wondering, how long have you been using Outsystems? So either not at all, so you're completely new to the community. If that's the case, welcome. Maybe very new with less than a year, between 1 and 3, 3 and 5, or more than 5. So I would be in the last category with 5+ years, but it seems like we have a, say, moderately to high experienced group in here. Okay, that's good to know. Then I think that's gonna be the last question. It's like a scale, I think. So I was wondering, how much do you think you know about AI? From like not at all to very much. How much do you use it in your personal life, and how much do you use it in your work life? Okay, interesting to see. I think we have everyone that joined answer. So knowledge is pretty spread out. Personal life and work life, not that different. So I think it's like average knowledge and usage across the board. That's interesting to know. Then I think it was it. Let me quickly take a peek. Yeah, we'll probably get back here. All right. So then the agents versus zombie challenge. So Outsystems launched this challenge somewhere, I think, midst of October, and the goal of the challenge was to build a solution, or I think they pushed a little bit on a solution using an AI agent that could navigate a maze or a cemetery full of traps to find a certain cell where an antidote was, so our beloved Neo wouldn't turn into a zombie as well. I've included here a link. I think the challenge is still open, so you could still give it a try if you want to. But that was the case. So it was quite easy to set up. You needed access to an ODC environment, and with the announcement on 1 in September, everyone now has access to free personal ODC environments, so that's great. Then you could download a sample application from the Forge. You needed to configure your environment endpoint in the Outsystems application, and you could start training your agent. quite straightforward, very well documented, and easy to get going. Then some concepts about the game. So I already mentioned it. There was a cemetery or a maze or a map. Might be using a few of those words, but they're all pointing at the same. So it's a grid with cells. Every cell has an XY coordinate starting at 0. And you could be moving, you should be moving through that cemetery and going north, like you go up the X axis, going south, subtracting on the x-axis, going east, incrementing, like increasing the x, and going west will be subtracting the x-axis. Then there were 3 concepts to be aware of. So first of all, a move. I think pretty self-explanatory. So your agent makes moves, and you could only go north, east, south, or west. So basically only one step. And when you do a move, you get back a natural language response that tells you about the surroundings. But we'll get back there, so I won't be talking too much about that in detail. And every cemetery has a configured maximum number of moves. So suppose you're on a cemetery, you can only take 10 steps. After you've taken the 10 steps and you try to do an 11th, you will die. So your run, nice bridge to the next concept, is over. So a run basically is a set of moves that you have to try to get from the starting position to the goal or to the antidote. And also here, there's a set amount of runs that you can try to solve the cemetery. And once you've exceeded those, you will die. And then last, there's attempts. So basically everything you do is part of an attempt. So you can start an attempt. Basically at the start of an attempt, you start a run, and then up to the maximum amount of runs, you can try to solve the cemetery. Luckily for us, fortunately, there's no maximum number of attempts you have. So you could try as much as you want, as long as you can solve the cemetery within the maximum amount of runs, and within every run, the maximum amount of moves. Then moving, I touched upon it already a little bit. So how it works is that you call an API, you tell the API, hey, my agent should now move north or east or south or west. And then you would get back a response. And the image shows the response. So you get a natural text telling you that it was successful, that you proceeded, and basically how your new surroundings look like. And also something important to note here is that sometimes that surrounding can be foggy. So randomly, it will not tell you the nature of the cell that you're looking at. Let me see if we have an example here. No, I don't think there's an example here with fog, but I think you get the gist of it. Then the challenge, of course, is build a solution, basically. So your application should be able to make decisions, tell your agent where to go in order to find the antidote before the maximum number of moves or runs out. The first step, or the easiest way, is to just use the provided sample application, start updating the prompts, and that could already get you going and get you potentially even solving it. Outsystems also suggested to make changes to the sample, so you'd have to clone the application so you can change it. And they left some to-do annotations in the code of suggestions of things to change. I think mainly they were focused around memory and how to deal with that, and basically dealing with the amount of information you send to your large language model. Or if you're very stubborn like me, you could just decide to build your complete solution from scratch, implementing those APIs that they provided. And note that if you've done something outside of just using the sample application, you would have to update your endpoints in the app. So in the sample application, they provided, or they stored some of the logging, so you could look at your database to actually look at those responses that I've just shown, so you can figure out how the response you got back and what your agent is doing, and that can be used to, for example, update your prompts for the agent. Then this was all a preparatory stage, so there were a bunch of cemeteries prepared, and on October 31st, they automatically they closed the training area, and from the Outsystems environment, they triggered a call to a final game, basically for everyone that participated. That would automatically start an attempt on that on a cemetery that you've never seen before. So there was no hard coding where to go. You didn't know what the test would actually look like. For the training routes, you did have a view of how the cemetery looked like. Then diving a little bit into the technical parts of it. So I've mentioned it a few times. There's this Agents versus Zombies web application from Outsystems. Once you're registered, you could open it, and then you could select a certain cemetery, hit the Start New Attempt button, and basically that triggered a call to the play attempt operation on your environment. That one stored some information, triggered an event. There's not too much to be shared about that. And that event, don't try to read this because it's way too small, but basically the launch run action, I think the name is not necessarily the best because it's doing a lot more than launching a run. Basically, this is an operation that takes care of, it's the beating heart of this game. So the first time when you launch it, it actually starts a new run. But then after it's made its first move, it's triggered this new move event again. So it will launch, triggers the launch run action again, although it's not launching a run. Kind of confusing. So in my implementation, I changed it a little bit. But yeah, this is the beating heart. So it starts runs. It sees if it can start a new run, if it can make a new move, it makes moves, etc. Then looking at my approach, so I have to admit, before this, I did not get a chance or took the opportunity to play around with ODC too much. So I took it as a great excuse, and fortunately also had the time to do that, to just learn a ton of new stuff from ODC, give it a go, try it out. So I was happy to use AI agents. I had an excuse to use workflows and events. I did start off with cloning the sample application from Outsystems, but as I said, maybe as this stubborn software engineer, everyone's work is always crap. So I decided I can do this much better. So let's just start from scratch. I have to admit, it took quite some work to get that done. I also struggled with some issues in my environment. I think I will touch upon that later on. There were some outages as well. But in the end, I was able to keep it going and develop something. I think one of the most important things that I wanted to do was to actually persist the knowledge of the cemetery. So for every cell while exploring the cemetery, I wanted to store the type of cell. So was this something I haven't seen before? Would it be off board? So would I fall off the cemetery board if I were to move there? Was it my starting position? Was it a safe cell? Was it either a trap, a zombie, or fire? Would it maybe be foggy? Or was it the goal? Or maybe did I die here? Then I know for certain as well that it was not a safe cell. So I used the workflow feature as my my beating heart and central engine or orchestrator. I will show that a little bit further on. And there were, I think, three main components. I was looking for a better word than components, but parts could also be used here. It was first getting the starting position. So when you start a run, for a certain cemetery, you will always start at the same position. But for example, for this final game, you did not know upfront where your starting position would be on the cemetery. Then there's this part of translating or interpreting the natural language you would receive into something that I know, hey, north of me is a safe cell, or maybe there's a zombie or whatever. And then the last part is actually using all of that information and making a decision of, hey, based on everything I know, where do I think would be my best move? So quick look, it's not a perfect data model, but this is something I've used. So I basically copied or was inspired by the data model Outsystems used. So I stored the information about my attempts, about the runs, and then I think this is an important part. So when I started an attempt, you receive information of how big a certain cemetery is. So I stored that, and also generated cells for every a cell in the cemetery. I actually added sort of a layer, or how do you call it? Like surrounding cells that were all already tagged as off-board. And then initially everything except for the first starting cell would be an unknown cell. And then while playing the game, that would be updated to actually store the knowledge we've gained. Then the workflow promised you. So this was my beating heart of the game. So when I received this trigger from the Outsystems environment, my REST API also threw an event for the excuse of being able to use an event, and also it's one of the few ways to start a workflow. Then I started an attempt, started a run, made my first move, and then after the move, I checked whether I was victorious or not. I think there wasn't any maze or any cemetery where on your first move you would be directly successful. But as you will see, this is also a point where we loop back into. So this is my test. Hey, have I completed the game? Yes or no? If I did, we were done. If not, we would be looking whether we could make another move. So how did we exceed this maximum number of moves that were allowed? If we did exceed it, we would check if we could start a new run, and then we would loop back to the start run node. And if we cannot, if we can, we would loop back. If we cannot, we were done. So basically there's two loops here. So from while in a run, we can still move. We go basically this route. So we go here. And then if either we died because we walked into a trap or we exceeded the maximum amount, then we checked whether we could start a new run, and then we start a new run and start moving again. So I think at one of my LinkedIn posts, I shared a screenshot of how the actual log in the Outsystems ODC portal looked like. It doesn't necessarily it works, but the image is not readable anymore. There were so many nested logs there that I know. Well, it worked, and that's most important. Then I also created some, basically debugging tools for myself. Not the prettiest. I'm not a front-end designer, so maybe someone could build something more fancy, but this worked for me. This is actually a picture of the end result after the final game. But while playing the game, this would be updated. So at first, all of these cells would be a light gray, which was the color I used for unknown. And then the starting cell. And then, for example, when you start here, this cell and this cell would have a certain color. So either being safe or being some sort of hazard or maybe foggy. And then while making steps, all of those surrounding cells would be updated, and also kept track of how many times I actually visited a certain cell. So that helped me also to reason and to think of of solutions. And this also was like an iterative process, so it was developed along the way. Then looking into this, like those three parts that I mentioned. So getting the starting position. So after starting a new run, you would receive a response like I'm showing on the screen. So you would not explicitly get like an attribute, hey, starting X is number 3 and starting I is or Y is number 2. You would get natural language or text describing your surroundings. So you would still have to figure out, hey, if I know what's north and east and south and west of me, then where am I actually? So my first attempt, which I have to admit worked pretty well, was to just build an agent for it. I've shown you my prompt again, not the AI expert here, but this worked. So basically, I told my agent that its job is to determine the current position on a board with X and Y coordinates, and that he would receive information about the adjacent positions. And I've provided an example because all of these answers basically took the same structure. And as I mentioned, this works very well. It was very fast to develop as well, so that was all great. But it wasn't necessarily very fast, and it was also consuming, I would say, relatively expensive like resources, like the tokens on my trial account. And so I didn't really want to exhaust those to figure this out. So I really had this feeling that this could be done, a lot better, faster, easier. And then let's see, something is hanging here. Whoa, that was too fast. Yep, there we go. So although I was thinking of like developing or programming a solution to not use AI or not use an AI agent, I could still use an AI here. And to be honest, I've done that like multiple times while working with this challenge, just as a sparring partner or a buddy to help me out to find the right words or approaches or names for a certain algorithm. So once again, also maybe not the perfect questions or prompts, but it worked quite well. So I didn't want to, basically I'm lazy, I think. So I just asked it, hey, if I have those 4 positions, what's an easy formula to figure it out? And then again, like it's for a lot of these things, in this case, it's ChatGPT is able to tell you what's going on quite well. But then before we actually do the math, we had to extract the 4 positions. And there I was familiar with regular expressions, and I think regular expressions are a great tool. They are quite technical, but if you know how they work, they are very powerful to like recognize certain patterns in text or extract certain information that follows a pattern from a text. So that's what we've done here. I've included a screenshot that also provides an explanation. So at the top, you see the regular expression used. It starts with the, I'm not sure about the color, like pinkish, with the escape character. That tells me to really look for a parentheses, I think, because it has a special meaning in regular expressions. Which is the green part that's basically telling me, hey, the information between the opening parentheses and closing parentheses is something I want to get back. Then I'm looking for a minus sign that can be there optionally, so it can be 0 or 1 times. And then the /d is for a digit, so any digit between 0 and 9. And while talking about this, I think I should, to make it perfect, add another like expression behind the /d, because currently it would not match minus 11, for example, or minus 12, because it would only match a single digit. But luckily for me, so far the cemeteries have not been bigger than 10 by 10, so that's why this has worked. Then the comma, and then another group of with a digit, and then it's done. So quite powerful to extract those 4 coordinates from the text. And we can do the math. So I've included some samples here. So as we've seen before, the idea was to grab the the x value of east, add it to the x value of west, and divide it by 2. Well, basically that's the lowest and the highest x, and the same thing for the y value with the lowest and the highest again. So that's what I've done. I'm gonna, for the sake of time, skip these samples, but it works out. In Outsystems, it would look like something like this. So here you have the regular expression. searching through the text with the pattern you've just seen. Then I'm appending all of the X values to a list and all of the Y values to a list. I'm sorting them so I can easily grab the first and the last. And then here's the formula you've just seen. So I'm grabbing the first value from the X list, add the last value of the X list, and then divide it by 2, and the same story for Y. And that would give me like the coordinates of where I am. And this is something that just executed on the ODC environment. So no external calls, no cloud tokens needed. I'd say easy peasy. Well, maybe not so much, but at least fast to execute and not consuming cloud resources. Then the next step, if we can move there, come on. I think it's time for a new laptop. It's freezing. Okay, yeah. So the next part is to process the information we get back when we made a move. And there, I think that's like a very, well, maybe not obvious, but a very good candidate for an AI solution, because we would get back like a natural language response. It is different every time. And we need to figure out for every cell what the type of cell is. So there, I came up with a prompt. Also here, not necessarily the best. Maybe some expert would say this is BS and it can be much better. Also here, I think you would see me like split out the different dangers. So fire and trap and zombie. Technically, that's not needed. Like for this game, you would only need to know whether it's safe or not. But for my game, I just thought it was fun to exactly know how the agent interpreted a certain cell. So the structure here is basically that I listed all of the cell types, used some markdown to also give some structure to the large language model. And then I fed it with the examples I've collected while playing the game. So in the beginning, I started with maybe half of this or maybe less. And then while playing and while dying, I just added examples that I've collected along the way. And then you could see the interpretation from the large language model improve for every time. So that worked really well. Then I think a very nice feature from Agent Workbench is that I would like to get this in a structured output. So I would not like to get a natural language response back from the large language model. That's not going to be very helpful here. So I defined this structure where I told it, hey, tell me in this structure the information of the current cell, the cell north, east, south, and west of me. And for all of those cells, I want to know what you think is the X coordinate, the Y coordinate, the type. And I think also important while developing and debugging is to also ask it for an explanation. So, hey, please tell me, in this case, in a maximum of 300 characters, why you gave this cell a certain type. So I said that worked really well. So quite quickly, I was able to work with a large language model and an AI agent to tell me the different cells. So I have this knowledge now. I've stored it, and then I need to make a decision of how to build an algorithm, basically that takes that information and decides where to go. And once again, there I called in my ChatGPT buddy, and I started talking to it. I'm not gonna show you all of the responses, but it took me a few times to correct it, to improve it, to in the end come up with, I think, a scoring algorithm. I'm not going to bore you with all of the technical names the specific algorithms could have had. I think also there it hallucinated a few times, to be honest. But at least it helped me in this creative process to think of, hey, I can actually define sort of a scoring algorithm where I'm going to assign a score to every adjacent cell. I'm going to use how many times this cell has already been visited. I'm going to And basically that's gonna sort of subtract from the score, because I would ideally move into cells that I haven't seen before. I'm gonna promote moving to a cell that would potentially lead me to more information. So suppose I'm gonna move into a cell where I know that that 3 out of the 4 adjacent cells of that cell are unknown. That's a much more favorable move than moving into a cell where I already know all of the information about its neighbors. So it came with some Python examples, and that was quite easy to convert into Outsystems. And here you see, I think, the actual implementation I've used. It wasn't perfect. I was still tweaking to it, but I ran out of time with the challenge. So I think I've mostly favored like the information gain part. So hey, please move to cells where your next step, or basically by moving that, you go into a direction where there's as many unknown cells as possible. And then giving a penalty for revisiting certain cells. And also I penalized moving into fog, but not enough actually. But we'll get there in a bit. And then I see my next slide was a small quiz. So I've talked about a solution that I used solving with AI. I talked about one where like just default programming, I think, is the best solution. And there's also hybrid ones, but let's jump into the Mentimeter again. There's, I think, a little quiz with 10 questions to see what you feel. There's some, let's see, some examples there, and then we can give it a score. I think everyone is still here, so let's start. So as I said, 10 questions. You need to give an answer whether that problem, it's like a short sentence, should be best solved in general with a programming solution, so low code, high code, whatever, or use of an AI tool or agents or whatever. Or of course, since we're software developers or architects, it depends. Sometimes it's not clear, sometimes it's a combination of both. But let's get going. Uh, Turn off my sound. I'm not gonna wait for the rest. Also, for the sake of time, as we have 5 people. So answering quickly, getting more points. So calculating employee payroll, would you use programming, AI, or it depends? All right, everyone is correct. Cool. I'm not gonna explain them why. Next one, next up. Detecting credit card fraud, programming, AI, or depends. Ah, interesting. I think while asking it, I also was thinking a little bit about it depends. I think a combination would, in the end, be used here. The explanation why it was AI was that like credit card fraud doesn't necessarily follow a pattern, and AI is much more suitable to from vast amounts of data detect certain patterns. Um, but obviously, you can also say, hey, if this credit card is being used, all of a sudden, well, actually, my credit card was used for fraud in many years back. I was then on a holiday in Hawaii, and all of a sudden, my credit card was being used in Miami to purchase TV. The bank didn't figure it out. I did it before the bank did, actually. But you can write certain business rules that can be like implemented using this traditional code. All right, moving on. Next question. Validating user login credentials. So, hey, is this login correct or not? Would you ask that to an AI? Would you do it with programming? So just the credentials, right? Not like location where you're from or whatever. Yeah, pretty clear case for programming. Auto-approving loan applications. Would you let an AI do that? Would that be programming? Would it depend? Combinations? Yeah, cool. Yeah. So here the example was it depends. Because maybe for certain very specific cases, for example, you could have it be done automatically with some programming, but also more complex cases could be done would need some help of an AI, and eventually you would need a human in the loop. So here, I think a combination of both would probably be more suitable. Okay, last question before we get a score to see where you are and how you're competing with the rest. Product recommendations in an online store. So hey, I'm looking at shoes, and hey, you might like these other shoes too. Alrighty, let's see how everyone is doing. So Jeppo is fastest. I think maybe with the last question then, but Wolfmeister is still leading the pack. Okay, 5 more questions to go. Generating monthly invoices, programming AI, or yeah, it depends. Could be both, could not. So would you let an AI generate your invoices? I think here, like the programming was favored because you just want it to be deterministic. You want to know like the amounts and stuff like that. Maybe if for the people voting for independent, maybe if you're going to generate some text, for example, explaining things, then you could use an AI to do that. But this one was primarily focused on like I think all the calculations, how much is somebody needing to pay. All right, question 7 out of 10. Calculating shipping costs and taxes. Pretty similar to the previous one, actually. There we go. Quickly moving on to the next one. Question 8 out of 10. Detecting manufacturing defects from camera images. Clear case for AI. I think the camera images gave it away. Predicting future product demand. Programming AI. Yeah, depends. Oh, you guys are fast. Someone's doubting. All right. Are we at the last one already? I think 10 in retrospect was a bit too much. Okay, we need to finish now, right? Scheduling employees. So 2 more. Actually, I think maybe I messed up with the quiz here, to be honest. I think the correct answer should have been it depends. Because some of the rules can be like gathered in programming and like in business rules, but also maybe there's some personal preferences that you cannot really grasp in business rules that you should take into account. So to be honest, I'm sorry for the guys that voted it depends, but I think that should have been the correct answer. But hey, there's not huge prizes to be won here if there's business at all, to be honest. So I don't know who Wolfmeister is, but Wolfmeister, you won. Congrats. that's the end of this presentation. Let me go back to the other one. And no, I'm gonna close it, because otherwise I have this annoying music running in the background that I don't think you guys could hear, but I did. All right. Yeah, so basically to not to recap, but if you're going to make a choice between, hey, am I going to solve this problem with programming, or am I going to solve this using an AI solution? Programming basically is best for problems that are very clear, they are deterministic, they're rule-based, so you can like really explain and write down and understand perfectly what needs to be done. So you could grab a piece of paper and a pen, for example, write down the business rules. Also, it needs to be repeatable, so every input should produce the exact same output. And mistakes, yeah, they cannot be made. So sending out invoices is one of the examples we've had. You don't really want to accept that 2% of your invoices contain a false amount. That's just like, not acceptable. Nice thing with programming that it's predictable. Huh? You know and you can reason what's going on. They're easy to test. They're repeatable. Debugging is also easy and straightforward. And yeah, it's needed for compliance and audits part. That's actually, I think, an interesting area where to see how that would evolve once we start using more and more AI. So some of the examples, I think we've seen some of them. So calculating things, capturing business rules, sorting, filtering, authorization. You don't want to randomly have 3% of the people be authorized when they're not. Billing, compilers, interpreters, some others. I think a summary, if you can write down the rules exactly, then it's typically a programming problem. Same structure for AI. So best used for problems that are uncertain, fuzzy, probabilistic, maybe pattern-based. It's sort of, I think, sort of the gut feeling problem. So the logic cannot easily be written down, but you somehow know how it's supposed to work. It involves recognition, judgment, approximation, and it's not always a strict like black and white yes or no kind of answer. Well, we as humans also recognize the patterns better than we're able to describe them. And I think the rest you can have a look at. So if the summary, if you know it when you see it, but you cannot exactly explain it, then AI is usually a good candidate. Then to start wrapping things up, we've talked a lot about this challenge. I didn't win any prizes. I wasn't the best, to be honest, as well. So in the end, my agent or my solution took 5 runs to complete the final cemetery. I had some videos of the different runs. So my first run, let's see, there we go. I just directly walked into a trap. When I looked back, what happened is that I didn't penalize fog too much. So the trap was covered in fog, and here it favored moving into an unknown direction instead of moving back to a safe direction. So in retrospect, this could have been prevented, but that's what happened in run number 1. Then run number 2. This one is actually the most disappointing. So you see the agent exploring, it goes in the right direction. It's almost at the goal, and then it decides to move back. So also here, it was the fog that kind of screwed me over. So when it was in this position, almost at the goal itself was covered in fog. It didn't really know what to do, and then decided, in this case, it did decide to move back and not walk into the fog. So otherwise it would have been 2 attempts. Talking about disappointing runs, I think number 3 was a very disappointing one. I think what happened was that my workflow engine decided to retry the like either a new run or new move activity. So this was basically a wasted run. Nothing is going to happen here because the game was like, hey, I don't know what's going on, so we're just skipping this run. Then we have number 4. it just starts exploring. It gets a little bit lost. It never really gets to the goal. I think this point that we just saw over here is interesting, where basically I think it could have made both moves. The scores for both of these cells could have been different, because I'm only looking ahead for like the next move and not, hey, which direction can you go to the most amount of unknown cells. So then it favored to basically go back into a direction where it was already exploring a lot. So then it reached the maximum move number, and it died. And then the best one, the final one, you see the agent with now already a lot of knowledge about the actual cemetery. So basically everything here should have been known. Like, this is one of the unknown cells, and then in the end it decides to move there and win the game. So let's see, we're moving forward. I think some of this or most of it I've already said. So I suffered from a retry in the workflow. That's maybe an interesting thing to be aware of when using workflows, that try to make every step as, I think it's an awful word, idempotent, hope I don't butcher it, as possible. Because here, like, a retry of a step just screwed me over. So that's something to be aware of when using workflows. On the other hand, I did like using workflows because it gave me a nice way to debug my application while using it because of these retries. But also they felt a little bit slower than using events. Sometimes, yeah, I felt I had to wait for quite a long time before a next step was actually triggered. I haven't been able to dive into the actual inner workings of the workflows and why that happened or not. I think was it the fourth attempt? My algorithm made decisions when multiple cells had the same score. And then I think it just, like, they were sorted or approached in a similar fashion. So it would always favor, I think, the first cell it would encounter. And maybe introducing some randomness there could have helped to prevent that, at least in subsequent moves or runs. And maybe also a nice one, I don't think I've talked about this, but I ran into an issue with Outsystems where for my debugging UI, I used the outputs of one aggregate to calculate the max amount of records for another aggregate. So basically I was fetching the information for the cemetery, then knew that the cemetery was 8 by 8 cells, and then computed that in my case, with the off-board extra cells, I was going to fetch 100 cells, which Server Studio just lets you do. But once you start publishing, you run into compile issues, and it doesn't give you a very helpful error response. So I lost a lot of time, and in the end helped with support to figure that out. The workaround was to temporarily store the output in a variable, and then it would still work. So I believe this is just a bug in the platform, or either it shouldn't allow me to do it, or it should just have it work. Almost there, Tiago, so start warming up. I think some of the takeaways or the lessons I've learned while doing this, I think AI can be a great buddy to help while developing. So I used it to bounce ideas off, to try to find the right naming for certain algorithms or stuff. I think it's also a great prototyping tool. So, for example, extracting that starting position, like building that solution with an AI agent was much faster than building it from scratch with programming techniques. I think in the end, once you move into production, it shouldn't be something that's going to be solved with an AI agent, because you can just do it with programming. But developing that part of the solution takes more time. I think I don't have it written down here, but I think AI enables us to solve like a whole new area of problems. I think that's basically what should be here, because that's huge. Maybe a blooper. So wasted a few hours trying to debug that, but apparently I stored my scores as strings, and I couldn't find why sorting them would result in all kinds of crazy sortings. in the end, I figured it out that it was because they were stored as strings and not integers, and storing strings is completely different from storing integers. Then the last slide here, some of the next steps and some of the things I've actually done after the final game. So I went into this rabbit hole a little bit too much, I think. So I created the game on my own environment, so I could just basically play with play with myself sounds a little bit weird, but I use my own environment to as the game engine from Outsystems side. So there I could just respond with the cell types and no need for the AI agent. So I could really focus on optimizing the actual algorithm that determines the moves. It includes admin pages where I can just design my own cemeteries. I wanted to build an extension to improve this sort of decision algorithm. Also for the sake of building an extension that turned out into a full working C# project where I could actually run my games, like feed in a text file with the cemetery design. I haven't completely finished it yet, but the idea is to use a like a breadth search kind of algorithm where I'm gonna favor moving into unknown cells. So in subsequent runs, I just say, hey, what's the closest unknown cell, even though that cell might be six or seven steps away from me. But since I have knowledge of the cemetery, I know the path to that unknown cell. So yeah, the actual Outsystems extension still needs to be made, and that algorithm isn't perfect yet. I'm mostly being hurt by the maximum amount of moves. So I'm still trying to figure out a way to optimize on that part. And that's it for today. So hopefully you've learned something new, got inspired a little bit, and at least I hope I haven't been wasting your time on Saturday. So let me see if I can stop sharing my screen and move back to the user group environment. And then I'm not sure if there's any questions or feedback.